Proton? What the hell? Okay, so I don't really have a script for this video. These are kind of my initial thoughts. Please keep in mind this has only been announced for about a day or two. But yeah, Proton released a Bitcoin wallet, and I feel very weird about it. And I think a lot of people feel weird about it, with the exception of one demographic. And so I want to talk about kind of what's happening in my eyes and why I'm frustrated, as well as some other people I've spoken to, and I'm going to try to relay those as best I can. Now, you might be wondering what's different about this. Well, the main thing is in some way it's going to use emails, like your Proton email alias, in order to send money to other Proton users. I still have yet to test this. This is not a review. I will probably do an upcoming review actually diving into this more thoroughly, but I just kind of wanted to give the general thoughts so far, because this came out of left field for a lot of people. I kind of want to start this by talking about, in my eyes, and what I think a lot of people think of Proton is a private alternative to the Google Suite with overall good privacy by default. Not the best, but good. And that's even in kind of their mission statement here. Proton, privacy by default, a better internet starts with privacy and freedom, take control of your data, and then they have all their things here. Now it includes Proton Wallet. Didn't include that like 2 days ago. Essentially, privacy for a better world is kind of the big thing that Proton does, and that's their selling point. My first thing that I was really frustrated by is two things. One, it's a Bitcoin wallet only. And for those who've watched the channel and who are in any way familiar with cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin doesn't offer very much privacy protection, and I would argue in a lot of cases it actually is worse than a traditional banking system. Because here's the thing with a bank. With a bank, the person you just sent money can't directly figure out where you're sending other money or how much money is in your wallet. Unlike Bitcoin, where it's just a public ledger. Now, I'm simplifying this. I know there's a lot of Bitcoin technologies now that can improve this issue, at least on a surface level, but the root issue still exists, which is that Bitcoin is lacking some very fundamental privacy benefits. So it's already kind of strange for me that a company that prioritizes privacy as its #1 thing chooses to release a Bitcoin wallet, especially when it's lacking some basic features like CoinJoin and silent payments that actually try to make Bitcoin a little bit more private. But even Proton acknowledges here that CoinJoin is dangerous to use because now you're actively mixing currency, which is illegal. So Proton has now chosen a cryptocurrency that doesn't offer good enough default privacy, and if they want to make it more private, they're now jeopardizing themselves from a liability perspective. And they even say that here. The future of financial privacy may therefore be decided by ongoing litigation in the next decade, and privacy advocates should support these efforts. How are they supporting these efforts? Now, the other big thing is you might be thinking, what about Monero, right? Because Monero is probably, I'd say, the most popular and successful privacy crypto project. Look, I actually wouldn't be upset if Proton opted for anything that offered more privacy than Bitcoin does, because again, they're a privacy company. But here's their justification. Proliferation of altcoins and other unsustainable businesses became known as crypto and has taken attention and market share away from Bitcoin. Altcoins simply cannot compete, even if they have some perceived advantages such as higher throughput or privacy. I actually talked about this on Twitter a little bit, and Proton, in their history, has never directly stated that privacy is not a good enough reason to use a more privacy-respecting technology. In the past, they might have said, yes, this is more private, but we aren't able to do it because of technological reason or usability concern or something like that. I go back to the 2-password mode for Proton, which still exists for the record, where essentially you can add a second password so that you need that password to decrypt your emails after you log in with your normal credentials. This used to be, I believe, a default, or it was very easy to enable back in the day for Proton, but they actually opted to not use it because of the usability concerns and people getting locked out of their emails. But the feature still exists, and it makes sense why they would do that. Now, for them to just say there are perceived advantages like privacy for other projects and not give a reason as to why you're not pursuing it outside of Bitcoin is the biggest and we like Bitcoin, it seems really strange to me from, again, a privacy company. And you might be thinking, well, this is brand new. Are they going to release more? It's hard to know because they specifically said, we're not interested in shitcoins, which is a very like Bitcoin maxi thing to say to prevent other projects from ever being legitimized. And I think that's actually what's really concerning here is the Proton blog is written very objectively as if this is all true, but a lot of this is actually very debatable. You know, you can say that many altcoins are pre-mined by their creators and that it's just taking energy away from Bitcoin, but that's coming from the perspective of someone that only cares about Bitcoin. I really liked this thread by Vinny here. It just deliberately rejects tools with higher throughput of privacy, rejecting reality according to the author's biased market opinion. I really don't understand why a privacy company would go all in on a project that clearly over time has just not committed itself to privacy. There was actually a really good thread by Untraceable here, which is Proton's a privacy-centric company. Bitcoin is anti-privacy, and the wallet itself offers very little privacy tools at launch, like CoinJoin, silent payments, etc. It's also worth mentioning that they've simply never accepted Monero even to pay for Proton, so you can't give Proton Monero to get your Proton subscription. That goes against many other like really hardcore privacy companies that we talk about back here, like Mullvad and IVPN, and even Tuda supports Monero. So these are all organizations that have acknowledged that there are privacy benefits for their users to use Monero. And of course, fiat is more popular than Monero. But that's not a good enough reason for, again, a privacy organization to prioritize privacy tools that people might need access to. Seth is probably one of the most noteworthy people in the space when it comes to privacy and cryptocurrency, and even he said as a response to this thread, I can't help but err on your side here. The whole situation is extremely odd and reeks of a laser-eyed maxi. For people who aren't familiar with cryptocurrency stuff, essentially a maxi is someone who only cares about their coin and nothing else, which I'm not inherently opposed to Bitcoin. I just don't think a privacy organization should be opting to use Bitcoin as a form of privacy. It's really dangerous for their users. It's really not great for their users. There's a big liability for them in the process, and they're not even implementing basic privacy tools that are now standard. And he says here, none of it makes sense in light of the broader mission of Proton without the planned Whirlpool integration. Now, it's kind of cool because Seth is going to have Andy Yen, the CEO of Proton, on a podcast episode of Opt Out. I've actually been on Opt Out. I was the first person on the show. So if you want to check out Seth's podcast Opt Out, I'll leave it down in the description so you all can get the actual statement from Andy once it comes out. But they haven't really spoken too much about it. There was this Reddit thread responding to Monero, where they even say that Monero has a great team, they're very focused, they offer a lot of privacy, but they don't want to associate Proton with criminality. And I totally get that. But then they say we're not a crypto company at the bottom. So what is Proton is my next question. If Proton is a privacy company, then they don't release a Bitcoin wallet. So which makes me think, okay, are they trying to be a crypto company then and offer multiple options for their users with varying degrees of privacy? And then they say, no, we're not a crypto company. So back to my original statement I made, I think there's only one demographic of people who are genuinely excited for this, and it's Bitcoin people. That's it. It seems like this entire product was developed and advertised and marketed to not only be pro-Bitcoin, but to actually be anti-everything else, which is really concerning given, again, the privacy implications of Bitcoin. I've actually made several videos talking about why Bitcoin, despite some popular belief out there still, is not an anonymous cryptocurrency. In fact, by default, with many Bitcoin wallets, if you send me money or I send you money, you can just look up all the transaction history I've ever done with that wallet. It's really bad, and it's public information, essentially. It's pretty much a public ledger of where everyone sent their money. And the tools to be able to track users are really sophisticated, and it's even been stated by some people that Bitcoin is actually easier to track than fiat. So I don't really know. You know, I'm trying to be level-headed about this. At the end of the day, this doesn't impact Proton's other tools. It's funny because I just made this video about Proton Pass and how I've been loving Proton Pass. So now I'm like, what the hell? Like, it just sucks because when you build a suite like this, now you're starting to get into issues like Google has, which is, okay, Google makes nice phones, but their search engine tracks you in this way. But then they do this over here, which is pretty nice. And it starts getting more nuanced, and it seems like Proton is there now, where, yeah, maybe a couple things they do are really solid, a couple things they do aren't solid. Personally, I wish that Proton, I say this so much, but I wish they focused on actually building out their ecosystem, making everything better, making it better for people who already pay to be in the ecosystem instead of targeting new users all the time. Especially, it's just been tough, you know, this has been a really weird thing for me. It's made me really rethink what Proton's mission is. Because just recently they released the AI thing, now they released the Bitcoin thing, and it seems like they're aiming more towards hype than quality. That's just my opinion. We still use Proton here for Techlore, but I can't say I'm not second guessing that right now. Just at the moment, I feel like this is the worst of it, but you know, if they keep doing stuff like this, I don't know why I'm going to want to keep supporting them. And I say this having just released my Proton Pass video like within the last week, which is ultra positive, and like, wow, they really kicked ass with Proton Pass. And I still stand by that. Proton Pass does kick ass, and I think Proton Mail is overall really solid, but it's just really hard to it's just really hard to understand and be a part of a company when you don't understand why they do what they're doing. It doesn't feel like they're being transparent. It doesn't feel like they're being honest right now in the context of this, and it's just really hard to get behind that. But I don't know if I'm maybe wrong about this. My perspectives aren't fully up to date. Again, I think when things happen like this, that's when we have the most emotion. So I'm trying to be level-headed about it right now, but I think I'm going to process a little bit more. But I'm really curious for everyone's thoughts about this. Thoughts about if they should have done this in the first place, if they should have done something different with it. Maybe you actually love it, and if you do love it, please explain to me like how you see this fitting into the Proton mission of privacy but not being a crypto company. Again, I really want to highlight here, I do see the use case of Bitcoin in terms of getting away from the traditional banking system and owning your keys, owning your money, getting away from all that. I get it. But that's a different goal than privacy. Very different goal. And that's why there's even tools like Monero, because Monero people are going, yeah, you know, well, we understand the use case for you wanting to get away from the banking system, but if there's no privacy, then there's some serious issues with that, especially with people who need financial privacy. Proton is not committed to your financial privacy right now. They're committed to your financial sovereignty, your, you know, being able to handle your keys, being able to store your own money, and I think that's commendable, but it's not the Proton mission that I'm familiar with. So yeah, if you do agree with this, I'd love to hear your thoughts as to why you think they did a good job and why you think this fits in the mission. That's all I got. I really appreciate you all tuning in, and I'll see you next time.